All right, it looks like we are live. Let me confirm. I'll talk for a little bit to make sure my voice is catching up to the stream. Welcome to our daily dose of vitamin D3. This is day 16 of our 21-day live stream, and it is Transformation Tuesday. So we're going to be talking about how I transitioned from the corporate grind to a business that heals and something that is more in alignment now with not only my passion and purpose, but my core values, my philosophies, my methodologies, and all of that, okay? And so let me start by asking you this question. And as you come on here, let me know where you're tuned in from. But the first question that I have for you today, and the main question that I have for you today that I want to kick this live stream off with is, do you currently feel like you're in survival mode with your job, right? Does it feel to you like you are that your career is more about survival than it is, thriving, right? So if you're kind of like stuck or feeling stuck in that corporate career of yours, or in the corporate world, or in a particular job that you have right now, I want to talk about it because it's never true that you are ever stuck, okay? It's never true. You actually have the power to pivot. You actually have the power to pivot. You can change your mind and make a different decision and start taking the steps towards in a better direction for the betterment of your near and far future at any given time when you so choose, okay? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I want to just put you in a different perspective, and I want you to know that you don't have to stay feeling stuck in a corporate career or a 9-to-5 job or anything you don't want to be a part of, but specifically we're talking about careers today. And so if you are feeling like your career is more about surviving than it is thriving, then we've definitely got to have this conversation. And so that is what our daily dose of vitamin D3 is going to be about today. Okay. So in order for me, I don't know, if you're new here when you come on to the live, or if you catch this on a replay, if you don't know a lot about me and my backstory, then let me start there, because it's my backstory and my abbreviated version of my career journey that's going to help put this into perspective for you and give you the context that you need in order to know how I made the transition from corporate America to running my own business, and then what pivots I made within the space of business ownership, okay? So let's first talk about that. So the first thing is so I'm going to just take you back. So kind of just a high level overview of my background. So I am a licensed registered professional nurse, okay? Before starting my business in the online space, before ever even knowing anything about the online world, I spent 30 long years in corporate America. Yes, 30 long years. And when I was in corporate America, I did a lot of things. But 25 of those years was spent in the healthcare industry as a registered nurse, as a clinician, and then 20 plus years in leadership roles. And I worked in a variety of healthcare settings, doing everything you can think of, traditional and non-traditional roles, of course, starting off at the bedside, and then, working pretty much every aspect of the healthcare industry that a nurse could do, from acute care, critical care, step down, subacute. Then I kind of, floated a little bit around, right? And eventually weaned myself out of the hospital. Decided that I cannot really, I'm working in a position that's affecting change at the bedside, but I knew that I could excel faster doing something that I really and truly believed in when it came to my philosophies around leadership. And so there began my path on pursuing my leadership, roles that that I eventually went into. But I decided that I was not going to affect change in the way that I really needed to by working at the bedside. So then I pursued higher degrees. And while I was pursuing higher degrees, I stepped out of the hospital. I transitioned completely out of doing bedside nursing because it was a fast burnout. And because, like I said, I wanted to be able to impact in ways that I was not able to at the bedside, right? And the poor quality of leadership that I had witnessed and experienced, I didn't want to be a part of. And so I knew I can bring in, fresh perspective and a better quality of leadership. And I wanted to be a part of that change. So that was my solution to doing that. So then I went into doing, home health and hospice, working for multi-specialty clinics. I've, worked for JCO, or as they call themselves now, the Joint Commission. I've written policies with and for them. I've done a lot of audits. I've worked in the billing arena. I've done, like home health. I've done like clinic work and community work, like public health. You name it, I've done it. Like I've literally done pretty much everything you can think of in the realm of nursing. And so the great thing about nursing, and it's one of those careers that you can find your niche within that space because there's so many opportunities. And so over time, I realized that what I was really great at, what my forte ended up being, was in the coaching and consulting space and education. Okay, so clinical education and then just education overall. So that is kind of like in a nutshell, and I'm not going to sit here and bore you with everything I've done in nursing, but just to kind of give you a little bit of background about what I have done. Well, within that time frame, I realized that I had only stayed, so 30 years is a long time, but I didn't stay in one position for 30 years. That would have just killed my spirit. Okay. I could never do that. I kind of was on the cusp of that era, where the baby boomers, like my mother, actually has been at her job for nearly 40 years, right? I could never do that, okay? I am just too much of a free-spirited person, and I'm not one who can really adhere to, I don't like rigid rules. I don't have problem with authority, but I'm always the boss of me, okay? So I don't necessarily like being told what to do and how something should be done. And if it doesn't work well for me, or if it doesn't sit well with me, or if something seems off about it, I will challenge you and give pushback. I will challenge you on the policies. I will ask you for the policies, to place before me so that I can, decide, if this is even something that I'm willing to adhere to. If you don't have those policies that support what you're saying, I'm not going to necessarily go forth with what you're asking me to do. So I do give a lot of pushback, but that's the boss in me. That's the leader in me. That's that doesn't align with my core values. That doesn't feel right, kind of thing. So I'm a huge advocate for myself and for others when something's not going right. So when I was in that space, I realized that I had only been in, the longest job I had was about 4 years. Okay. And that was several purple moons ago. Okay. So, and after that time frame, I had only been in, every job that I had after that was about a year or two on average. So I decided that I kept trying to figure out what it was, because I would feel excited at the very beginning of getting the job, right? I would remember that. I could still remember the feeling of, oh my gosh, I am so excited about this particular position or working for this particular corporation. And wow, this is a Fortune 500 company and they invited me in to do this, or they hired me for this role, right? I'm going to be able to really do these amazing things. And so I could remember the excitement around that, but that was like a honeymoon phase that was really short-lived, because I was never, ever, ever truly fulfilled in any of my roles for a long period of time. At the beginning, yes, but somewhere in there, I would find that I would get into these positions and it would be, and let me preface this by saying, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every position I had was a position that I didn't like, okay, or a toxic environment or a hostile work environment. But there were many of those, and there were many positions that I held where I really and truly appreciated the role, really loved what I did. It felt very rewarding. I liked the people I was around. I liked the leadership that I worked with. I loved the culture of the organizations, some of them, right? I have worked for some very, very prestigious corporations, some very world-renowned organizations in the healthcare space, that if I said the names of these organizations, you'd know right away. They're very well known. So I had some exciting positions. I did really enjoy a lot of the work that I did, but I did not enjoy all of it. And even in those positions, there was always some reason why I just didn't feel fulfilled for the long haul. So I was one of those people who job hopped, right? So I went job after job after job, really searching for the thing that was going to make me happy and feel excited and feel a part of something bigger. But what I learned over the years is that I was never going to find it in corporate America, because corporate America could not offer me what was deep down inside of me and what God had planned for me, which was much bigger than what corporate America could ever offer. That was a tongue twister. So so over the tenure of those 30 careers, as you can imagine, just staying, at a job for about a year or two on average, that was a lot of jobs, right? So I have gained a lot of experience, and I knew that as I was looking to be in a higher up position, and when I knew that I was deserving of and was well qualified for a promotion, and then I didn't get it because it was given to, and I was well qualified, in fact, overly qualified for the position, okay? And they would make me jump through hoops and go back for degrees and certifications and all of this unnecessary stuff. And they place these unrealistic expectations on people like myself. And I'm not one to play the victim, okay? I'm going to do what I need to do to earn the spot, okay? To do what I have to do to get the promotion. I wasn't looking for any handouts. But to then give it to someone who was less qualified, to give those promotions to someone who was like my white women counterparts or my male white counterparts, or even just a man of color, but he was, a man, right? As opposed to a woman. So, it was all of that as well. So I just really got tired of all of that. I got tired of the office politics, the red tape, the bureaucracies, and all the things familiar, right, that come with the territory of working in corporate America. I was just really over it. And I was just tired of, the long commutes, the long work hours, the stressful positions, and, all of the long job duties that they were expecting of me, and other duties as assigned. Like, I was over that. So I realized I was never going to be satisfied 100% to continue in this space. So I started making plans for transitioning out. But during this time, around 2015, I decided, me and at the time my life partner, we decided to move on the East Coast. Well, we actually moved to Atlanta. Okay. We were just going to be there temporarily. So it was a temporary relocation. We were going to be there for a couple of years and then move back to the West Coast in Southern California. But that temporary stay turned out to be a longer stay than we anticipated, because we got there. And although it was a planned move, we got there, we'd saved for it. We had enough money, and we had enough money to, take our time to look for whatever positions we wanted as far as working in the corporate arena. We were just going to get jobs. We were going to travel. We were going to spend time with family, time with each other, do all the fun things, and then come back. And we weren't going to do anything business related. But as it turned out, even though I have 30 years of experience in corporate America and umpteen million credentials, right? All of the alphabet soup of credentials behind my name, and all of the accolades, 3 degrees, all the things. I did all of that work and I was not able to find a job. Okay? Make that make sense. There was a lot wrong with that picture for me. So I was getting into the interviews, but it used to be, I had never experienced this before. So for me, anytime I could get my foot in the door, anytime I can land an interview, they're going to hire me before I walk out that door. They're asking me to sign on the dotted line before I leave that interview. Or they may ask me to come back because they want me to meet somebody else or have a panel interview or meet the people that I might be overseeing if it was a leadership role. So, or by the time I got home, they were already calling me or sending me an email offering me the position. Like, that was always my experience. So this was the first time that I'd ever experienced never being able, not being able to get a job or getting my foot in the door and having an interview, but then not getting the position. Okay. So that was problematic for me. And I was like, what in the hell is wrong with this picture? This does not make sense. And so I would find that people, especially women, were really intimidated by me. They felt like I was coming to take their position. It was just craziness. And so I had never experienced this before. I experienced the intimidation, but usually within, I already had the position, not when I was just, coming in for an interview and they were the boss and they felt like I was coming to take on their position. And they were basically telling me all the reasons why they don't feel like I would be the best fit for this position, even though I was well qualified. Like it was just crazy. So I was getting, a lot of rejections, right? As far as I wasn't going to be a good fit for that particular role, even though I actually was. And there were a lot of other reasons, but those were just to name a few. So I, at this point, was like, you know what? I've had it. I already was over corporate America, and now I'm really over it because I'm not going to beg anybody for a job that I rightfully deserve and that I can easily get, and that it just doesn't even make sense that I'm having difficulties or these challenges to get a job when, in fact, I am very well qualified, right? So I said, you know what? This is the time where I'm going to pull out and I'm going to make the transition, and I am going to create my own opportunity rather than waiting for someone to give me the opportunity. Okay. If they won't allow me to sit at the table, I'm going to create my own table and I'm going to be sitting at the head of it. Okay. So that's how I roll. And that's exactly what I did. Now, I had no idea. I had a concept of an idea. Okay, that just made me laugh because I'm thinking of Donald Trump when he said, I have a concept of a plan. Okay, anyway, I digress. But I had a concept of a business idea. And I wasn't sure how I was going to make it happen or exactly what I wanted to do with it. All I knew is that I wanted to empower other women like myself who was in a position similar to mine or who were, for other various reasons, ready to leave their corporate careers. Be it they were in a toxic environment, a hostile work environment, or just in a position that no longer served them and they wanted out. Okay. And those who dreamed bigger for themselves, but they just didn't know the steps to take to get there. So I was determined to figure out, how do I transition out of this for myself so that I can teach other women? So the first thing I did is I said, well, I know I want to empower women. I want to empower them and basically recruit them to leave their positions, but in a streamlined way, right? Not just in a haphazard, today you're here and then you're gone the next. No, you want to do this in a very seamless way, transition seamlessly so that there are no hiccups in this process and they don't compromise their livelihood, right? They have to still be able to maintain their livelihood. And I knew that would be the number one concern of many of the women I work with, because as I was talking to women in different industries and having these conversations, this is some of the things that they shared with me. So I decided, okay, I'm going to figure out what I need to do to make this happen. But I knew that business ownership was a vehicle that I could utilize to transition out, to change my economic status and to change the trajectory of my life. Because right now I know that I'm in the corporate arena, but I want to get into the business world full time. How do I make this happen and show other women how I did it? So then I took myself through the process. And once it worked and I was able to replace my 6-figure salary, which was my concern, how can I replace my high income, salary to then, with this business of mine? And what does that mean for me? What does that exactly look like? So I started to build genuine relationships, get in the communities, go to different, social events and networking functions, start to rub elbows with key players in the community. And from there, they started to put me on to different events and, invited me into rooms that I didn't otherwise know about and introducing me to key players in the community who had ties into other people who were key players and, so on and so forth. And that's how I got well known and started to establish myself in this space. But at the time, I didn't have a business coach. So it was just like we were just trying to figure it out. Speeding up the story, we eventually realized we needed to get a business coach because we were empowering women, right? But I didn't want to be at the time a business coach. I didn't want to be any kind of coach because I had a different understanding I knew what coaching was, and I decided I would rather be a consultant to begin with. So that's where I started. So I started to do some freelance work as I was building out my business. But as I was going to these various functions, I would get up there and speak, and introduce myself, and I would stand and I would pretty much say, if any of you are in this situation and you're looking for someone like me to be able to help you through this process, speak with me. Come, let's have a chat. When we get to that point in the networking event where, if you want to reach out to me, here's my card. Or if you want to chat with me about how to do this, then, let's chat over here when we have a moment. So this is how I started to build up contacts, right? This is how I started to build up, a name for myself. And so there came a point in time where I really felt like I was doing more chasing after clients and not so much just attracting clients to me. Okay. And I thought some of the people that I initially would work with would be like my ideal dream clients, when in fact, one or two of them was actually turned out to be a nightmare. Okay. Not a dream at all to work with. So I knew then I had to make my first pivot, because I went from becoming or being a woman empowerment coach or speaker, or whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't say a coach, but a women empowerment speaker, to being more or less a career transition coach, teaching women how to transition out of their careers. And then from there, and a startup business expert, because at that time I didn't know anything else other than how to start a business. I did not know how to necessarily grow it yet, because I hadn't gotten there, and I didn't know how to scale it, right? So I had to learn that first. So in the interim of all of this, I hired a coach and then decided, okay, now at this point, I need to know how to attract the right clients to me without this feeling like a burnout and without me chasing after the money, right? Basically, because when you're chasing after clients, you're taking money from anybody who will give it to you so that to work with you, because you're trying to establish a clientele and you're trying to leave corporate America and you need to replace your income. So you're almost willing to take anyone who says they want to work with you, but all money ain't good money. Okay. So when I learned that, not with my first coach, but I learned that with my second coach. Once I worked with the right coach, I realized my prices were way too low. And I realized that I need to set my own prices and not allow clients to dictate what prices I charge. Okay. And I had to learn that I was not going to be charging based on the time I'm spending with the client, but rather the value I'm providing. And so when I learned about value-based pricing and the transformation that people get as a result of working with me, oh baby, I upped my prices like from really low to a really, I won't say really high, but definitely I 10x'd my prices, and I also 10x'd my business that way. Okay. Because I was able to then transition a lot sooner than I would have been selling my products and services for the time I was spending at a lowered and sometimes discounted rate. Okay. So that's when I made the first pivot. Then I still felt like I was burning out, because at the time I was doing one-on-ones, right? VIP days, one-on-one coaching and consulting sessions. And I was like, this is a lot. Okay. Because I still was keeping up with all things nursing, because I have multiple licenses, meaning multiple state licenses. And in order to keep my licenses active, I have to continue to do nursing things. Okay. Even if it's just seasonal work, even if it's just taking classes, whatever I got to do, I got to keep up on my skills. I got to make sure that I am solid, very solidified in my knowledge, right? I needed to make sure that if I were going to become or remain an active registered nurse, then which I had no intentions to do otherwise, then I'd need to keep up with that. So doing that means that I'm working independent contract roles, freelance positions, right? Side gigs or I'll call them side gigs, a little bit of a hustle sometimes. And so doing that as I was still building my business was a lot. So I wanted to be able to set my business up to scale. And how do you do that? A number of ways, but one of the ways is to do group coaching programs. So I learned how to do group coaching programs with the second coach I had hired, and I learned how to do it even better with the third coach I had hired. So this is another time I pivoted. You see, you can hear the transition if you're following the journey here, right? So those are the things that I did to, to scale or to transition, to pivot. And I'm saying all of this, I'm sharing this with you to get your wheels turning so that you can start thinking about how you can actually pivot. So right now, if you are in a position at work, in a 9-to-5 you don't love, it's draining you, you don't feel fulfilled, you're in a toxic job, you are in a really bad position right now, whatever the reason might be for you, you fill in the blank, okay? But overall, if you are not fulfilled, this is the time that you need to start considering, am I just surviving in this position when I could be thriving in a blissful business that I can start or grow and set up to scale, okay? So that I can start living life on my terms. Because if that is not the life I'm living right now, then I am doing myself a disservice, right? So what steps do I need to take? What action do I need to take to get in a position of power, to position myself once I've made the decision, to put myself out there so that I can do what fulfills me, what nourishes my soul, right? What's more in alignment with my core values. So when I made the transition so now that I'm running a business that it's, running smoothly, right? And I'm loving the work that I'm doing, but I'm still feeling like I don't want to work as hard, okay? I want to earn more doing less. Now, I know that sounds counterproductive and counterintuitive, but it is actually a way that you can do that, all right? To earn more while doing less. So, again, that has to do with increasing your prices oftentimes, adding structure to your business, streamlining processes, automating systems, delegating and outsourcing tasks. That means you've got to eventually hire a team or at least an assistant or two, right? So once I started to do that, that took a lot of the burden off of me, took a lot off of my overflowing plate, okay? And allowed me to be in a stronger position to focus on what mattered to me most. And then the more I started working with women and talking to women and doing discovery calls and kind of like just getting a feel for what women was really looking for, I learned that a lot of women were burning out in their careers and burning out in their businesses. And they wanted to have a fulfilling life, yes, but a life that felt like they didn't have to put themselves on the back burner, And so how can they build a business while transitioning from their careers, right? Or work in their businesses full time without feeling like that they were at a place where they just weren't happy anymore, right? And it happens to the best of us. You get stressed out, you start to feel anxiety, you are shouldering the responsibility of so many things in your household and your personal life and your professional life. And then of course, life is life in the meantime, right? Dealing you a hand that you may not be happy with, and you've got to figure out how to deal with it. And so how can I now teach women how to prioritize their well-being, right? And so that then became a thing for me. So I experienced, if you don't know this part of my story, I'm not going to get into it, but you can go back to, when I talked about this in the resuscitation room in the live stream series that I did. You can go back to any of those live stream replays and watch any of those where I deep dive into my story. And I talked about the dreaded D's that happened to me in 2020 and how I took that and turned it around and eventually took a self-care sabbatical that literally saved my life, okay? And then I made a pivot when I came back, and I decided I'm not going to just focus on teaching women how to transition out of their careers or how to build or start a business. I am going to teach them how to build an aligned and profitable online brand and business while prioritizing their health, healing, and happiness. And so I did it for myself first, and then I was able to teach it to others, right? So you see, you can, as you follow this journey, you can hear how I positioned myself to be able to help more women get from where they were to where they ultimately wanted to be, so that they can feel re-energized and rejuvenated and revived and renewed and resuscitated, right? Like their life and their business needed to be resuscitated because they were putting old things before them, including their business and their family and their anybody who they felt or whatever they felt obligated to. So once they learned how to put themselves first in all things by integrating wellness into their business practices and into their career, then they realized that it could easily be done. And so now for me, not only am I teaching from those principles and those philosophies, and my framework is built around those methodologies, but I now also take work only 4 days a week. Okay. And I have a 3-day weekend, and I'm working towards having where I'm working 3 days only and having a 4-day weekend, because I feel like every day should feel like a vacation. Every day should feel like, a mini vacation, right? It should feel like a holiday. It should feel like really and truly living life on your terms and your terms only. So if I'm doing anything at all these days that is not in alignment with that, then I'm not doing it. Okay. That's the truth. I don't care who it is. I don't care what they're offering. I don't care what their approach is. I don't care what partnerships they want to create. If they are not in alignment with my core values, and if they don't run their business and their life in the way that I do, then I'm not in cahoots with those people. I'm not building a relationship with those individuals. Okay. Because this is more important to me. Okay. There are lots of people out there who want to do all the things and wear all the hats and hustle hard and all of that. But I am unsubscribed from the hustle culture, period, point blank. I am about embracing ease, okay, and living the soft life these days and doing the things that matter most to me. And so if there are people out there who want to connect with me, but they are not in alignment with that, then I would say there are plenty of other people out there for you who you can get close with and partner with and do all the things with, if that is still what you believe. Okay. But this is how I made the pivot and how you can make the pivot too. And so I wasn't intending for this live stream to be as long as it is today, but I definitely want to make sure I am driving this point home because it is so imperative and really critical to your success. If you are in critical condition right now, and I mean that figuratively, but literally speaking, because you're headed to, burnout, or you're already in the phase of burnout and stress mode, you're going to end up in the hospital, darling. Okay. If you're not careful. So take care of you first and be sure that you are taking the time to pivot when you feel the need to do so. Only you can make that determination, right? Only you. So let me see if we have any comments here worth me addressing or answering, responding to. I got my little handy dandy phone here. Okay. It helps to have two phones because sometimes I can't see all the comments on the live stream. Okay. Let me see. Some of these comments are so hilarious. Okay, let's see what else. I want to make sure I always check both just to make sure all is well. So if you watch the replay and you have any questions, concerns, any follow-up that you need, me to respond to, or if you even need to know how to make the transition seamlessly from corporate to the business world, or if you are kind of stuck in between and you just don't know how to grow your business and get into that space full time. Okay. Or then first of all, I want to say for you, download my quick start guide where I teach you exactly how to be the CEO of your life and your business by doing that very thing, right? You don't need any more degrees. You don't need to get in any more debt. Okay. You don't need to feel any of the disappointment you've felt so far because of what you've experienced in corporate America. You don't need to leave corporate America hustling hard in that space or grinding in that space to then become your own employee, enslaving your own business and grinding away there. We want to teach you how to make that transition smooth, right? But also how to set yourself up for success. And you would want to do that with the help of my guide, or get on a call with me and we can do a coaching session and I can support you directly with whatever your current situation is. You can find the links in the description below for both of those, okay? So if you have any follow-up questions, like I said, let me know, but I appreciate you tuning in live for those of you who are here live and or those of you catching the replay. I'm going to tune out while you tune in. Be sure to share this video out to those who need to hear this message today, okay? As always, and until next time, I am wholeheartedly in this journey with you. Bye for now.